7 o'clock?
There he is.
There we go.
Oh, the gavel. We were getting worried. We were.
I was.
All right. Today is July 19th, 2022. A meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee was held today at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber and via Zoom, with which meeting link can be found on the agenda and on the city's website. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran Jr.
Present.
Alderman at Large Michael B. O'Brien Jr.
Senior, actually, but I'm present. Junior's home.
We gotta get that fixed at some point. Alderman at Large Ben Clemens.
Here.
Alderman Derek Tebow is here as well.
All right. Also in attendance is Director Sullivan, not the planning manager, Director of Planning. All right. Does anyone from the public want to comment on anything that's being discussed tonight online? All right. Seeing none. Discussion. There's none.
There is none, sorry. I was fixing the junior and senior.
Communications.
None.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
Petitions.
None.
New business resolutions.
There is none.
New business ordinances.
None.
Alderman Tebow, is there a motion to remove something from the table?
Yep. I would like to make a motion to remove from the table the petition for rezoning of Gateway Hills and to take it off the table.
All right. Before do you want to have the discussion with Director Sullivan now or after? After we take it off?
You have to vote.
Make a motion and then have her make the motion. Then it's up for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to vote on the motion.
Let's
take it
vote.
off.
All right. Let's vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Director Sullivan?
Good evening, members of the committee. Frankly, very little to report this evening, but the committee had charged staff with approaching Flatley representation for more information and really direction about why they had chosen to request withdrawal of the petition. We did have some conversations, I would say sort of off the record, about some frustrations that I think you were aware of as part of the discussion at this committee. But ultimately, the decision to withdraw was due to a multitude of factors, and they were not necessarily comfortable putting those into writing. And so, based on that action or that lack of action by the petitioner, we've obviously placed forward a motion this evening or a request this evening that the committee take action to essentially not consider this piece of legislation moving forward. We are currently in active discussion with representatives of the Flatley Company about other developments that are happening on the property, and that's not to say that those will not come forward, but this specific petition to consider rezoning to allow the multifamily project to proceed will not be part of those active discussions, though I would just say that in the future, should demonstration be made by the Flatley Company that they're willing to have more comprehensive conversations about the development plan for their site, we'd be happy to have those and continue the very solid partnership that I think we've had with Flatley over many, many decades, but at this time, we're not comfortable recommending this petition moving forward.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. And just one question for me before I open it up to everybody. Now, it's Corporation Council's recommending this indefinite postponement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Director Sullivan? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, as we move on to the future, while this is still on the table, do you think it would be wise for us to do some impact studies to be prepared, to have somewhat of a folder and a jacket on it, that when Mr. Flatley or somebody of interest wants to come forward, we have something prepared that, the things that we like to see, such as, excuse me, the traffic study. If it's residential development, what would be the impact on the schools? 2 schools in the district, New Searles and Bicentennial, 1 middle school, Fairgrounds, to look at that in a deeper, perspective, so we'll understand what we're dealing with in the future.
Mr. Chair.
Director Sullivan.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman O'Brien. I think it's a great question, and I believe that, and I'm not just saying this for the record, but I truly believe that both parties have that in mind. The Flatley Company did performed some level of study relative to traffic for the proposed development. And they certainly have made some efforts to contemplate school impact, sewer infrastructure impact, and the larger traffic impact of the development. And I would also add that they have been at least thinking about the impact to the abutting residential neighborhoods and the character of the neighborhood. I think where the rub is that has been on a project by project basis rather than as part of a larger comprehensive development plan that contemplates all of the future build out. And so I think Flatley is interested in having further conversation about that. Whether the city should take that on, I think that's part of the discussion that needs to be had. I tend to think as part of the way that we run our development process here in the city that that's the responsibility of the developer themselves.
Okay.
But we are more than willing to be a part of those conversations. And I would just note for the record that they have performed traffic study historically in partnership with city staff. There's been sewer investigation in partnership with city staff in the past. They've developed student impact in partnership with the school district. So there have been efforts made. It's really a matter of ensuring that those are larger and include all of the potential development that Flatley may be considering for this area. And that conversation has not necessarily happened to a point where we're comfortable making a larger recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, my concern about Flatley, I know you just said a bunch of things about them that, and generally, I probably would agree with some of those. I don't know if my residents or my constituents would agree with that. And, part of the reason is Flatley comes to us with a, 59 home development. My constituents are up in arms. We go to the planning board meeting. There's really nothing we can do to prevent it. Then after it gets approved, they sneak in we're gonna change that to a 48 or 49 unit development so we can get under the affordable, the inclusionary zoning, so they don't have to put any affordable housing in there, and they get it in just before the deadline. And so to me, it's like, we just approved what you wanted, and now you're changing it so you don't have to provide any affordable housing. So I get concerned with that. The other piece is too, by doing it piecemeal, it feels like, when you play SimCity and you don't have it figured out, and then you put everything in, and all of a sudden it's like, big building here, small building here, brewery here, a ski hill here, big place here, and all of a sudden it doesn't really look like the character of a master plan. It's just a bunch of stuff thrown on a hill, and we hope it works. And I do like the fact that there's a lot of housing there for people, and that they do build nice buildings. The brewery's gonna be great. The whole section there with Prest and all that in that area is very nice. So they do good work and they do take care of their properties. But when you start adding a lot of stuff there, I do worry about like water pressure, because we've had, people that are just over on the other side from the Gateway Hills, on the other side with the actual developments, complain or not complain, it's not the right word, but bring up the fact that there's sometimes low water pressure, and so you start putting everything else over there. So those are some of the concerns I have. I'm okay if Flatley's gonna be a responsible builder and they wanna try to be good with the neighborhood. I understand we need housing, there's a lot of land there to do things with, but piecemeal makes me nervous because they change on a whim. Oh, we're gonna do industrial, no, that's not good, let's do some housing, oh, that's not good, the townhouses. And then all of a sudden they have a bunch of different stuff based on what was happening at the time of the, during the economic, whatever, whether it's good economic time or poor one. So they make me nervous at times. And I'm glad to take this off the table. They withdrew it anyway. But going forward, I think we just have to make sure that they are doing the right thing. Because, when I told my constituents that they changed their mind, some of it's like, oh, good, there's not 58 houses there. But the other thing is, oh, they're getting rid of their clubhouse and their pool, and now why are they doing this? And I had to explain why, because they don't want to provide affordable housing. So what's going to be there? $600,000 homes that people can't afford? I don't know. So that's my 10 cents.
Would you like to respond to that?
I could go on all day.
I will. I'm not going to respond to the comments on the active application for obvious reasons, but and I want to be careful that we're not expanding the conversation too far beyond the petition, and I know that everyone's sensitive to that, but I think the larger comments speak to just the issue that resulted in this committee's hesitance about the petition, and that is a level of predictability and cohesiveness of development. I don't necessarily think that there's any objection to what Flatley has done to date with the property. I think I've heard a lot of positive comments related to that. I also believe that they have a long-term interest in that property, and they have an intent to do development that is compatible ultimately with what the city's vision is. And so I think we're fully supportive of that. It's really just this interest in more open communication earlier in the process so that we can be walking hand into whatever forum it might be, whether it's this aldermanic chamber or whether it's a planning board meeting. And I think there are some concerns about whether that's been the case, particularly recently. And so I think there's much time to help repair this relationship that maybe has some concerns on both sides, legitimate on both sides. But perhaps it's not through this significant rezoning effort that's being considered. This seems like an ask that really does trigger further study than what's been provided to certainly this committee, and I think to other boards as well for their consideration. So I guess I'll leave my remarks there.
Well, and thankfully now they know that hard-nosed Matt's on the job and they can't sneak one by you.
Right.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. Yeah, I happen to think Flatley has a mixed, I think some people think they do a great job, some people think they don't. But overall, I think they've done an okay job with the land and what development is there. I didn't necessarily oppose this petition to rezone. I don't necessarily oppose them coming forward piecemeal either. I think that it's their property. I think they have the right to do what they want with it, as long as they're following our zoning laws. And if those have to be changed, then I don't mind looking at that on a case-by-case basis such as this either. I don't think everything has to have a master plan in order to move forward, and I think I'm hopeful that that they continue their relationship with the city and wanting to do business.
Anyone else? Alderman Tipo, is there a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to recommend indefinite postponement of
The petition for rezoning.
the petition for rezoning Gateway Hills.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. Great. General discussion? Public comments? Anyone in the chamber, online? All right, seeing none. And remarks by Alderman? None, all right. Then I will adjourn. Oh,
No,
no,
not
no,
you.
that's right. Is there a motion to adjourn? See, we haven't done this for a while. Of sorts. Alderman Clemmons.
Move to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We are now adjourned at 7:13 PM.